Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast, where today we're going over UFC Seattle Cejudo versus Song. First things first, make sure you smash that like button, give a follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram. We are returning to TikTok. Wherever there's social media, there's the Stats and Stacks podcast. Super quick recap of last week. The Schneid's over, and we absolutely fucking crushed last week. First and foremost, I hate Ismail Bonfim. This is the second time that he blew up a 10-leg parlay. I will never bet on him again. He's officially one of the first people on the Stats and Stacks podcast. Do not bet list. Screw that guy. Never again. Never, ever, ever again. He's so talented, but he can't be trusted. Outside of him, Chaos Williams decided to just go out there and brawl. Didn't see that coming. I should have, I guess. I don't know what was going on with Chaos. So Bonfim's just screwed me both ways. Outside of that, every other single fight was right. Jared was right. All of the locks hit. We had a real greasy one with Elijah Smith, but we stayed the course. All the money came in on Vince Morales. We stayed the course. Doubled down, made a lot of money on Elijah Smith, my guy. Just those damn Bonfim bros screwed me over in two fashions with the dog and yeah, both dogs. So whatever. It is what it is. Can't complain. It was a winning night. It was an extremely beneficial night. And we're on to the next card. We have a live event here. We're not in the Apex. We're back on the road in Seattle. And let's just go ahead and get on to it. Let's start with the very only 11 fights. This card's a little cursed. There have been like 7 or 8 fights that have been canceled on this card. It's absolutely insane. But for the 11 fights still standing, get ready. It's going to get real greasy. It's going to get real gross. We're going to go dog hunting a little bit. Let's start with the very first fight of the night. We have Modestus Bukakis at minus 290 going up against Rafael Sakira at plus 240. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 125. Over 1.5 minus 125. Under 1.5 sitting at a minus 105. Let's start with Rafael Sakira. He's trash. He's not very good. He's an 11. He has 11-1 record where it looks good, but he's fighting absolutely nobody. It's just nothing but cans. He's 34 years old. He's someone that was supposed to be in the Contender Series because UFC thought he needed to be fraud checked a little bit, make sure he's real. But his fights in the Contender Series kept getting canceled. He's had one, two, he had 3 fights for Dana White Contender Series get canceled. So eventually they said, "Fuck it, take a fight on short notice." We're going to throw you on this card against Ebo, who we also aren't too sure if he's real or not. So let's throw 2 frauds against each other and see who comes out on top. The answer was Ebo. He went out there and he knocked out Sakura in 50 seconds. It took him under a minute. Part of the reason he's 34 years old, he's 11-1. We already talked his level of competition. He has virtually no fight tape, so it's really hard to go off of what he truly does. I literally had to do fight tape by watching Instagram and like 2 fights. Like what is he good at? I mean, you can kind of tapology him, and it looks like he's a equal opportunist. He has a few submissions. He has a ton of knockouts. From the few fights I was actually able to see, I literally was only able to watch like 2. He did a lot of rope and dope action. He let you swing off on him, and then after his cans got tired, he would beat the absolute shit out of him, and that's what he does. He tried that against Ebo. He went out there and let Ebo swing on him, but he got caught. And when he got caught, he didn't recover, and he got knocked out like 3 times up against Cage. So he literally just wants to go out there. From what I've seen, again, very little fight tape. Buyer beware. It looks like he goes out there and just tries to do a rope a dope. If you have bad cardio, he's banking on that. He carries his hands very low when he actually is striking. And then when he does decide to go, he gets countered a lot. They say it's called like taking pictures. He'll land a good shot and then just stare at you and kind of admire his work. Meanwhile, you have all the time in the world to hit him back as he's sitting there admiring what he did to you, and it happens quite a bit. He'll land a good shot and then get countered immediately. He does not react well when he's getting pressured at all. He does not counter. It's either him with his hands low, throwing some wild stuff, or him just shelling up, letting you trying to do his rope a dope action. Again, his Brazilian Jiu Jitsu looked all right per Instagram. But all in all, he's 11-1, and we still don't really know what this guy is. He looks like an absolute fraud. And based on the few fights we saw, he is. Problem is he's fighting Modestas Bukakas, who is god awful. He's very, very bad. He's 31 years old. This is his second stint in the UFC. The UFC thought he was good, realized he was not, sent him back to Cage Warriors. He won a Cage Warriors belt, took a fight on short notice, and won a fight against Tyson Pedro as a huge underdog. They thought maybe this guy is back, and then he went back to his old ways, and he looks pretty bad. He'll have a 2-inch reach advantage. He does have good striking. It's just very, very low volume because he's a counterpuncher. He does not go first, and that's going to get real weird because Sakura doesn't like to go first. Like he likes for you to blow your load and then just finish you late. But Bukakas doesn't swing, so that's going to be a weird. You have counter striker going against counter striker. To an extent, he's more of a rope it up. It's a different ordeal. Again, but although he has good striking, it's very low volume. He has 71% takedown defense. His jujitsu's all right. His cardio's good. He can go a full 15 minutes because he doesn't do much. His The problem is the 71% takedown defense. He's fighting Zach Poaga, Vitor Petrino, Marcin Prachnia, Tyson Pedro. Like, who's the wrestler? Why is it only 71%? And he's awfully chinny. When you go back and you look at his record, Petrino knocked him out in his last loss. His loss before that was a KO to Khalil Roundtree, where he just got his knee blown out. Fight before that was just a split decision. Nice. He went 15 minutes. But fight before that, he got knocked out in the first round by Jimmy Crute. On the regional scene, he did get heel hooked in his first loss. His next loss after that was, again, a KO. So this guy has 6 losses on his record, and what, 4 of them are by KO. So he is a little chinny. But all in all, he's a counterpuncher with good cardio, and that is it. He can't wrestle. He doesn't have jujitsu. He doesn't have a chin. So this guy's absolutely terrible. He should be minus 290 over nobody. Should he be the favorite over Sakura? Yeah, because we don't know what Sakura is. Part of me wants to go with the unknown and just take the shot on the dog at plus 240. But I'm going so dog hunting. I'm scared to. There's I'm betting on a lot of dogs this weekend. Sakura doesn't have to be one. Do not force it. Do not bet this fight. It's going to be a very, very boring fight. If anything, I'm looking at that over 1.5 because they're two counterpunchers and they're both scared to go first. So, I'd probably prefer to just take the over at minus 125 for a 1.5. That's pretty good odds. So overall, the pick will be Modestus. I cannot trust him at minus 300. Fuck that. I like the over 1.5. Or if you feel so impelled or inclined, you can take that dog shot in Sakura, but I can't recommend it. I have no idea what you're getting. Next fight of the night, we have a greasy one. We have Mansour Abdul Malik at minus 1,000 going up against Nick Klein at plus 700. Over under also set at 1.5. Over 1.5 is plus money at plus 160. Under 1.5 minus 200. So let's start on the Nick Klein side. I like this kid a lot. He's taken this fight on short notice. Initially, they wanted Abdul Malik to absolutely murder Tricoli, which he would have done. Tricoli is just a walking punching bag. So Dana White was trying to watch a legal death in the octagon originally. Tricoli gets hurt. They decide to call on my boy Nick Klein. He looks a little goofy. He's funny as shit, honestly. He won on Dana White Contender Series, walked over as a huge underdog, just like this. Walked over to Dana White and told him that John Jones is the best fighter to ever walk the planet, just making fun of everything, all the ridicule Dana's been getting. So the dude has some charisma. He's 6-1, so he has charisma and the record. He's making his debut on short notice. Be wary of that. But this dude's jiu-jitsu is pretty slick, man. I watched a few of his fights where he is just transitioning from submission to submission, from knee bar to arm bar to triangle, and like just switching back and forth. Um, his wrestling has looked good and it has looked bad. I think it's really just contingent on who he's fighting. His striking is okay. He likes his kicks. He's very, very kick heavy. A lot of body kicks, leg kicks, teep kicks, and a pretty solid jab. That's about all he does on the feet are kicks to keep you at bay. Like distance kicks and jabs is really what he sticks to. Um, He can be chin checked. I've seen him drop multiple times, so that's very, very concerning. And I have seen him slow down in his fights. But when you look at his record, he's predominantly going out there and finishing fools early, a lot of them by sub. Again, Contender Series is a huge dog and got a takedown and immediately got the rear naked choke in 30 seconds. Impressive. Fight before that, he got a rear naked choke in under a minute. Impressive. Probably his best win was against Colin Huckbody, who's fought a lot of good fighters as an actual like good prospect. And he got a third round finish over Colin, where his cardio actually looked good for once. I did like that. Fight before that was his only loss, and he definitely gassed out in the third round. That did not look good. Then he had a decision, and then a whole bunch of early finishes. So dude's an absolute finisher. 6 wins, five by one by knockout, four by submission, one by decision. He's just a killer. All of them mostly in the first round or the third round. Apparently, he takes the second round off. But I like this kid a lot. His jiu-jitsu is very, very slick, and he has a ton of charisma, and he has some wrestling and striking. He has it. Is his wrestling and striking the greatest? No. But at this weight class, his jiu-jitsu is pretty slick. I will give him that. On the other side, we have Abdul Malik, and honestly, this guy's a little bit overrated for me. I don't think he's that good. He is strong as shit. I am absolutely terrified to go against Mansour Abdul Malik. Hits like an absolute truck. He's 27 years old, so he's in his prime. He's gonna have a 3 inch reach advantage, so I'm petrified that Klein's gonna throw a kick out there and get countered with an overhand and just put his lights out because this dude can knock out anybody. Unlike Klein getting a decision, this guy can't physically go to decision. He's kill or be killed. He is 7-0. He's I think all of his wins. He's been training at Extreme Couture as of late, so he's at a good camp. He has okay striking, but he has a collegiate wrestling background, so that does concern me because again, Klein is a BJJ guy. He will like to try to get this down to the ground. Abdul might have a wrestling advantage, or it might be a wash. Either or. Um, if he takes Klein down, he has vicious ground and pound. Abdul's ground and pound is some of the best I've ever seen. The problem I have with Abdul is his cardio. He fights like a berserker and he can't keep it up. We've seen him go into the second round one time in his entire career against Wes Schultz. I don't think too highly of Wes Schultz. I've seen a lot of his fights. And he was completely gassed when he got that second round finish. He had nothing left. Him and the problem is him and Wes had nothing left. They were both gassed, and eventually he was able to get on top and able to secure a ground and pound finish. But if Wes had any sort of cardio, he would have killed Abdul. Abdul does not have, he can't fight the way he does for 15 minutes. It's just physically not possible. He is kind of like a Terrence McKinney out there, a wrestling background who is very, very rudimentary in his striking, but can knock out anyone. Hits like an absolute truck. And has no cardio. He's literally Terrence McKinney without jiu-jitsu. That's what he is. And that's a scary thing to bet against. I'll tell you that. Klein might go out there and die. Like he might knock out Klein in 20 seconds. And that's why he's in a thousand minus 1,000 favorite. But on the flip side, if he doesn't get Klein out of there, or he allows Klein to get anywhere near his back or get a takedown, Klein is dangerous, and Abdul does not have the BJJ to keep up with Klein. So whether he's tired or he just catches him early, I think Klein by sub is live. I'm going to bet Klein by sub. It's plus 1,000. If you really want to get crazy, you can bet it round one or round two. And Klein has a ton of early submissions. We've seen multiple sub 1 minute submissions. If he's able to get Abdul down early when they're dry, he can take them out. And that's the way I'm going to bet. I'm going to stick with my guy. He's plus 700. Should probably just take him on the money line too. His money line and his submission prop aren't far off. So I'll probably take Klein money line at plus 700. I'm going to pick Mansour. He should knock out Klein early. But if he does not, and Klein gets the early takedown or Klein survives, I do like him by sub for a fun play. But I'll probably just take Klein's money line at plus 700. And if I want to get really fancy, I'll probably do Klein round one. It's like 22-1 or 23-1, something crazy like that. For a guy with 3 submissions under a minute, I'm willing to roll the dice again. So again, a little long-winded. The pick is Mansour, but if I'm a betting man, I'm not betting him at minus 1,000. He's too unpredictable. It's literally Terrence McKinney. I will bet Klein and I will take Klein by sub round one just as a glory play. Next fight of the night, we have Ricky Simone at plus 210 going up against Javid Basharat minus 250, over 2.5 minus 360, under 2.5 at plus 285. Let's start with Ricky Simone because I don't know what version of Ricky Simone we're getting. The rumor is he was hurt in his last fight against Vinicius Lockdog Oliveira. If he was hurt, that might explain why he hardly shot any takedowns. And when he was just striking with Oliveira, he was a sitting duck. He looked absolutely terrible his last fight. So I don't know if he looks absolutely terrible because he's washed. He's 32 and he has a lot of tread on these tires, or if he was significantly compromised going into the fight. That makes a difference here. He has good wrestling. He has good jiu-jitsu. He has okay striking, but pretty decent power. There's not a lot of fighters from Washington itself. But the surrounding area, this guy trains at ATT Portland, so he's very, very close. He will have the hometown advantage in this matchup. He's fought a much better level of competition. And when you look at his 6 losses, I mean, Lockdog isn't the greatest look, but if he was hurt, he was hurt. Outside of that, Mario Batista's top five, Song Yadong is top five. You have Anderson Dos Santos doesn't look good. But then outside of that, who has he lost to? Uriah Faber is a Hall of Famer. Rob Font is top 10. Yeah, nothing but great fighters here that he does not have a bad loss on his record. So I don't know. Is Basharat that good? Is he a Faber? Is he a Song Yadong? Is he a Mario Batista level? No, probably not. Um, but what I don't like is that Simone is pretty hittable, and Basharat has fought wrestlers in the past. He fought Tony Gravely, who fights pretty similarly to Ricky Simone. In all honesty, a little powerful, short, stocky wrestler that can strike a little bit. It's just Tony Gravely has really, really bad cardio. Ricky Simone can at least go 3 rounds, but outside of that, they're pretty close to each other, and Javid handled him appropriately. Javid's 29 years old. He has good striking, high volume, a huge striking advantage in this matchup. He has 85% takedown defense, and that's going against Victor Henry, going against Mendonca, who can wrestle a little bit. Tony Gravely can wrestle. Like, these guys can wrestle. He's rocking an 85% takedown defense. He has good jiu-jitsu. I'll say the jiu-jitsu is a wash. He has good cardio. He has the advantage there. And the few times he did get taken down, he had extreme urgency to get up. He is one of these guys that springboard back to their feet and pop right back up. So I know that Simone is training at ATT Portland. He should have the crowd. He's the American in this matchup. But Javid is training at the actual ATT, like the headquarters. So he'll probably have the better sparring partners. He has plenty of wrestlers to train with. He should win this fight. He's minus 270 or whatever, minus 250 for a reason. I will go ahead and I'll pick Javid Basharat. I'll end up betting Javid Basharat, but I think this fight's going to be pretty close. I think it's going to be close to like how like the Smith and Morales fight was very, very close. You don't feel comfortable, but one side should win. That's how I feel on this one. So I'm going to roll the dice again. I'm going to pick Javid Basharat. I'm going to bet Javid Basharat. Next fight of the night, we have Nursultan Ruzaboev at minus 260 going up against Eric Mechanico at plus 220. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 plus 100. Under 1.5 minus 130. Let's start with Nursultan. Nursultan's trash. Nursultan, good things about Nursultan. He's 31 and he's absolutely massive. Especially at 170. This fight, he's returning to 185, where he's feeling he looked better. He has pretty solid jiu-jitsu, and he trains at Enzo Gracie, so he's been training with Petrosky and Brady and Pfeiffer. Outside of Brady, the rest of them all have fights. Petrosky just had his last week. Pfeiffer has one coming up, so he has a good training room around him. That's the positives. He's not very good. He has a very, very fast overhand right. And he loves this little like shovel uppercut. He loves throwing that little shovel uppercut, but that's all he throws. He throws that right hand and that shovel uppercut. And those are, and a flying knee. He loves his flying knee. Those are the 3 strikes that I've seen him throw. He's 34 and 9. This dude has like over 45 fights and I've seen him throw 3 things. Like he's very powerful. He's very fast. but he does not have a lot in the toolbox. Decent jujitsu, but it's mainly a Kimura. It's like he just fell in love with like four things and just does them and spams them on repeat. If you can, he's the easiest one to train for. Like you know what you have to train for repeatedly, and that's all he's going to do. His wrestling's god awful, and when I say god awful, he's rocking a 0% takedown defense. He made Joaquin Buckley look like Jordan Burroughs out there. It was fucking embarrassing. He does love to counter. He's very low volume because he prefers to counter, and he's countering with that right hand and that left upper shovel uppercut. That's that's it. When he does have to go forward, if you back up at all, that's when he throws the flying knee. Like I can scout for this guy. I am not a striker. I grew up wrestling, and I can tell you exactly what he's going to do and when he's going to do it. He's one of the most predictable fighters I've ever seen in my life, and he is an absolute can crusher. Him and his brother. I These guys don't even have Wikipedia pages. That's how bad these guys are that he's beating. He's an absolute fraud. He shouldn't be in the UFC. And the fact that he's minus 300 is one of the most embarrassing things I've ever seen. He has bad cardio, and he just doesn't belong here. But he's minus 260 because he's fighting someone else that doesn't belong here. He's fighting Eric McConaughey. Eric is making his debut at 34 years old. He's an MMA lab product, so he's been training with Jared Cannonier. That's nice. Jared just had a 5 rounder. But outside of that, he's just not particularly good. His level of competition's been bad. His jujitsu's okay. His striking is pretty solid. He loves to rip to the body. I love the body work he puts in. But the problem is he can't really wrestle. He himself can't take a shot. He's very chinny. He has 2 career losses, and they're both by KO. He can throw pretty decently hard himself, and he does seem to have good cardio. But he's like Walmart Jared Cannonier, like okay jujitsu, not really good wrestling. Hits decently hard and just pressures forward with some body work. That's about it. He's literally discount Jared Cannonier without a chin. Uh, yeah, man. He's very, very limited, and Ruzaboev is very, very limited. I don't want to bet either. I guess I'd probably just lean towards the under, but they set it at 1.5, and it's juiced to minus 1.5. So I don't fucking know. You might just have to eat chalk in this matchup. I'll take Nurselton, and it doesn't feel good. The bet, it's straight dog or pass, or you might eat some chalk and take like fight does not go the distance. It's going to be extremely juiced, but that's the only way to look at it. Neither one of these guys should be trusted. I'll watch the fight. I'll like the violence. Someone's going to get hurt, if not both. It's just a matter of who. Predicting who is damn near impossible. So the pick is Nurselton, the veteran, but the bet would be dog or pass, or I'm taking the does not go the distance, or maybe the alt under 2.5. That's the only ways to bet that. Next fight of the night, we have more people that you cannot depend on, but there should be violence. We have Ibo Aslan at minus 170 going up against Ian Kutalaba at plus 145. Over under set at 1.5, and it's a straight pick 'em at minus 110. Another another violent fight with the 1.5, and I have no idea who to choose. Let's start with the favorite in Ibo. Ibo is 28 years old. He'll have a 2.5 inch reach advantage. He has pretty good striking and a ton of power. All 14 wins are by KO, but it's against absolute nobodies. I think he has one decision. If I go back, actually, does he have a decision? Nope, they're all KOs. Um, God damn, yeah, they're all KOs in like 20 seconds. Outside of his last fight, or sorry, second to last fight, he fought Anton, and he did go into the third round, so we were able to see what his cardio was like. And the answer wasn't good. Terrible, terrible, terrible cardio. Anton was just as gassed, and that was a rematch. The first time the Pleasure Man and Ebo fought, the Pleasure Man won because Ebo ran out of gas. So he has no jujitsu. He has okay takedown defense. Doesn't want to offensively wrestle. He just wants to just throw heavies and see who goes down. And 14 out of 15 times, his opponent is the one that went down. He is literally just going to march forward and swing. That's all we got. And he hits extremely hard and it pressures you like crazy. But he's just pressuring cans. On the other side, we have Ian, who is Mr. Undependable. He's 31 years old. He's fought a good level of competition. Um, and his striking's okay. He hits decently hard himself. He has okay wrestling. It's not bad. He's some sort of like Sambo champ at some point, I believe. His jujitsu's okay. It's not good. It's not bad. It's better than Ebo's. Um, He does have a tendency to wrestle power punchers. When he fought Ivan, he wrestled a ton. When he fought Felipe Lenz, he wrestled. When he fought Tanner Boser, he struck because Tanner Boser doesn't hit hard. When he fought Kennedy, he was wrestling. When he fought Johnny Walker, he wrestled. When he fought Ryan Spann, he wrestled. When he fought Devin Clark, he struck. Like it's if you are a striker, he will wrestle you. If you have no power whatsoever, he'll stand and bang a little bit. So he's going to wrestle Ebo. Good lord, he's going to wrestle Ebo. Will he get the takedown? His wrestling's not as good as I remember. When I went back and I watched the tape, I thought he had a lot better wrestling. I was ready to go ahead and put some money on Eon until I watched the fight tape. And like he's there to get hit. He doesn't have the greatest chin in the world. He's not very. He doesn't have good optics when he's getting forced backwards. He does not like to get hit at all. And I've seen him chin checked and knocked out multiple times. So all Ebo does is pressure forward and swing heavies. So he's probably going to catch Eon at some point. But if Kudalaba is able to get underneath him, he basically only shoots doubles as well. So if Eon is able to catch him and get a double, he will gas out Ebo. If he does not get that double and Ebo shucks him to the side or sprawls on top of him, he's fucked. He is going to knock out Eon. So I think it's going to be an under, as does Vegas with the under 1.5 basically being a pick 'em. So this is another one where I'll go ahead and I'll side with the favorite. I think he's going to get the KO. But Kutalaba probably also only wins by finish. So I like the violence bet here. So the pick is Ebo. The bet is going to be the alt line under 2.5. Or does not go the distance. We're going to have to eat more chalk here. Dog or pass, or eat the chalk on the violence for this one as well. Next fight of the night is going to be one of our first decisions. We have Andre Touchy Feely at plus 100 going up against Malquazel Costa at minus 120, over 2.5 minus 210, under 2.5 plus 170. Let's start with Malquazel Costa. He's someone I like a lot. I think he's a pretty good fighter. He trains over at Shootabox, and if you know anything about Shootabox, they all fight exactly the same way, just different levels of competence doing it. They're good strikers. He has good jujitsu. He is okay wrestling. It's not good. It's not bad. His takedown defense is not good. Shootabox can get takedowns. They can wrestle a little bit. But defensively, they don't. They skip sprawling. They don't believe in defending takedowns for some reason. Probably because they believe in their jujitsu. And Malquazel's jujitsu is pretty solid. He starts very, very fast. He is going to win one round of this fight. Like round one, just go ahead and pencil in a Costa victory. He'll sprinkle in takedowns from time to time, but he can slow down a little bit. He's very quick and very kick heavy. That takes a lot of energy. He's gonna come out looking like $1 million. I will remind you, Costa is going to win round one, but is he gonna win the fight? I don't know. It's close, man. Andre Touchy Feely is kind of just like him. He's predominantly a striker, but he's gonna have a 3 inch reach advantage. He's a little bit of a general, just like Costa. He has okay jujitsu. He has okay wrestling, and will sprinkle in a takedown here and there. He has pretty decent striking. Neither one hit particularly hard, and both of them have been knocked out. But I wouldn't consider them chinny. So neither one really have power. Neither one have really like terrible chins, and they both just sprinkle in takedowns as they're striking. So they're both basically carbon copies of the same thing. And because of his fight style, Andre Feely, we talk about Angela Hill, and it hit again last week, death taxes and Angela Hill by split. You want to talk about Angela Hill's equal. He is the female Angela Hill, literally to a T. Split decision against Cub Swanson. Nathaniel Wood fight was really close. Bill Algeo was a split decision. We have Charles Jourdain was a split decision. Michael Johnson a split decision. Dennis Bermuda is a split decision. This dude goes to split decision every other fight. I mean, his last fight was a split, so maybe he doesn't go to a split this time. But at the end of the day, it's Angie Hill 2.0, death taxes, and Andre Feely split decision. The only difference is I mentioned earlier there's not a lot of fighters that Washington can really like Seattle can get behind. He has trained at Team Alpha Male for years and years, like decades now. He went there when he was like 19 years old. He's 34 years old now. He's literally been there over 2 decades. But where is he originally from? Washington. He's originally from Federal Way, Washington. He is the only man that was born in Washington on this entire card. The crowd will definitely be behind Touchy Feely. And when we have a really close striking affair, he's going to lose round one. The crowd's going to get behind him. He's probably going to win round two. And round three is going to be real. Or he's probably going to win round three, I should say. He has better cardio than Costa. Round two is going to be real close. It's going to be real greasy. And I see the judges getting swayed by the only Washington representative on this card. So the pick is going to be Andre Fili. The bet is going to be Andre Fili. And if you want to get crazy, you can bet him by split, but it's only like plus 600. Vegas knows it's coming. Andre Fili by split is on its way. Next fight shouldn't go to a split. We have Alonzo Menafield at minus 225 going against Julius Walker at plus 190. Over under set at 1.5. Again, another violent fight. Over 1.5 plus 100. Under 1.5 minus 130. Let's start with Julius Walker. He's kind of cool. I like his nickname Juicebox. I think it's funny. He's only 6-0. He's only 25 years old. He's probably not ready for the UFC, to be perfectly frank with you. But he's coming in, filling in on short notice. He's very, very, very green. He will have a 5-inch reach advantage. He used to fight at heavyweight, and I think one of his first fights were at middleweight, so he's all over the place. But he seems to have found this home at light heavy. He's making his debut, undefeated prospect. He has okay striking. He had pretty smooth jiu-jitsu. Part of it being light heavyweight, usually people don't even know what jiu-jitsu is. They can't spell jiu-jitsu at light heavyweight, so I saw one of his wins. He transitioned from a triangle to or what was it? He had a back take. The guy tried to Granby. He transitioned into a triangle and then transitioned into an armbar and got a belly down finish. Like it was very, very smooth, especially someone that's only 6-0 at like heavyweight. It was nice to see. He's very calm. He can get cracked, and he's not, really, really like big reactions or anything like that. His wrestling's okay. With how good his jiu-jitsu looked, I'm a little upset with how his wrestling looked. It could be better. It looks like if you fight someone that can't wrestle at all, it's fine. But if you can sprawl, or you have just any sort of knowledge of what wrestling is, like Alonzo Menafield has, he might struggle to get the fight to the ground. So he might have to strike a lot. His striking's okay. He's a little hittable. He has a lot of potential. I really think he could be a thing. I just think it's a little too much too soon. His cardio, questionable. I've seen it look okay. I haven't really seen him go off. I don't think he's ever gone to a decision. He usually gets finishes out there. Yeah, a lot of early finishes. He went to decision in an amateur fight, but those aren't even 5-minute rounds. So he's never gone 15 minutes. So God knows how it looks. I, I don't know. A lot of round one finishes and one in round two. So he's fun. He's someone to keep an eye on for the future. For this fight, I'm a little scared, especially going against Alonzo Menafield. Alonzo Menafield is as scary as he looks. And what I can tell you is that he's a little bit of a glass cannon, though, because he's 37 years old. He is not young. How him and Jared Cannonier have all this muscle on them, being the ages they are, I have no idea. But yeah, he's 37. He's back at Fortis MMA. He's done fooling around with Pat Barry. He's good striking. He has a ton of power. Almost all of his wins are by knockout. He has a few submissions. His jiu-jitsu, he's aware of what's going on. 76% takedown defense is probably enough to stop the takedowns from Walker. Problem with him, though, although he is a brick shithouse, Father Time did catch him with his chin. His chin's trash. He's been knocked out all of his losses. Basically, he is that draw with Jimmy Crute. But Asmat was a knockout. Carlos Ulberg was a 12-7 knockout. Ovens, say Prue was a knockout, and Devin Clark was a decision. So, yeah, he's been knocked out in 4 of his 5 losses. Dude's a little chinny. He's a little bit of a glass cannon. He doesn't throw a lot of volume. But he does have a tendency to pressure forward. He just doesn't throw a lot. It's really weird. Like he literally has his hands up, he shells up and marches forward. So he wants to counter. All he wants to do is counter. Because if he counters you, he's going to put you out. Walker is there to get hit, so that's a little concerning. But Alonso doesn't have great cardio. I don't know if Juicebox has good cardio. This is a complete stay away or violence. Someone probably gets finished in this fight. I don't know who. It's most likely Walker. But the guy's nickname is Juicebox, and he looks fun. I kind of want to bet him. It is not a responsible bet whatsoever. The pick is going to be Alonzo Menafield, but I think I'm going to do the same ordeal. Violence or dog. That is like the mainstay of this card. Violence or dog. The pick is Alonzo Menafield. The bet is probably going to be the under 2.5 or fight doesn't go the distance. And let's eat the chalk. Very, very chalky. Next fight of the night, we get radical. We have John Silva, Lord John Silva, at minus 625 going up against Melsik Bagdasarian at plus 430, over 1.5 minus 170, under 1.5 at plus 130. Let's start with Melsik. Or no. Let's start with Gene Silva. John Silva is not that good. He's a little overrated. He's the new hotness right now. He's training over at Fight Nerds, who everyone and their mother wants to back. He's 28 years old. He has a ton of knockout power. The dude hits like an absolute truck. He has very good striking, okay jujitsu, throws pretty decent volume to go with his power, especially because he prefers to counter strike. So to have the amount of volume he has while he's a counter striker is interesting. That's not normal. It's an anomaly. He's hard to mess around with on the ground. He has an 80% takedown defense. He hasn't fought really any wrestlers. So 80% is interesting because Charles Jourdain took him down multiple times, and Charles was one of the worst wrestlers I've ever seen. He fought Kevin Vallejos on Contender Series. He was a striker. Weston Wilson is a BJJ striker who can't wrestle, and Drew Dober doesn't wrestle. So 80% takedown defense. He might struggle a little bit with an actual wrestler, but he has another striker here, so that doesn't matter. He's very, very good at countering. His cardio, he does start to slow down later on in fights. He doesn't gas, but he does slow down. But everyone loves this guy because he fights on short notice all the time. He has a broken hand. That's why he's had such a lull as of late. But he hits hard. All of his wins are basically KOs. If he hits you, you go out. He's very fast, very, very fast hands, counters, and puts your lights out. Very exciting to watch outside of his walk. His walk, they got to address because he literally takes about 4 minutes to walk down to the octagon. I can't stand this guy. I will never bet this guy because as I'm watching him walk down the octagon, I will instantly change my mind. Just be ready. If you need a bathroom break or to go grab a beer, fuck it, run to the store. You got plenty of time because this dude, I'm not kidding you, will take 4 to 5 minutes to walk out to the octagon. It's the most annoying thing I've ever seen in my life. On the other side, we have Melsik Bagdasarian, who everyone seems to have forgotten about. He's 33 years old. He's coming off a 2-year layoff, but he was kind of Gene Silva before Gene Silva was around. He has very, very good striking. He has a world kickboxing pedigree, acumen. He has pretty decent power himself. He can slow down in his fights, so a really scary striker with suspect cardio. So the exact same thing as Silva. Difference is his jiu-jitsu is god awful. He has basically nothing to offer. His wrestling 72% takedown defense, but he's not going to offensively wrestle at all. His body's just breaking down on him, man. He takes a lot of breaks in between fights. I mean, he's 33 years old and he only has 10 fights. Just his body just can't handle it. He's a fun fighter. He's fun to watch. He's just a kickboxer and MMA, but so is Poetan. uh, so is Zine, honestly, to be honest with you. He's fought Tucker Lutz, who's a good wrestler. He was able to pass that test. Josh Kulabau, he was winning that fight. He literally slipped, and then Kulabau jumped and choked him out. It was insane. Bruno Souza is a striker. He won. Colin Anglin is a little bit of a generalist. He knocked him out. Dennis Bazukia had some success in the UFC as of late. Knocked him, or finished him, or didn't finish him, beat him on Contender Series. He's just a striker. That's all he is. But you have striker versus striker. Melsik is definitely like a world-class kickboxer. Gene is a very, very good MMA striker. So it's kickboxing versus MMA. These guys are in Seattle in front of a crowd. They're not going to wrestle. They are going to go tit for tat striking. And you have a world class kickboxer at plus 430 in a striking match. It's insane. I'll go ahead and I'll pick Silva, but it is dog or pass. I think the over is going to hit too. The 1.5. Yeah, Silva hits really hard. So does Melsik. But they're so technical and they're so good on the feet. They will be prepared. And they're used to getting punched in the face all the time. Neither one have ever been knocked out. They're both pretty durable. So I'll go ahead and I'll take the over 1.5. And I'm also going to take a shot on Melsick and hope that it's a y'all must have forgot moment. I think Gene Silva's good. But if this is just a striking affair, I'll go ahead and I'll bet a world class kickboxer at plus 430. That's insane. Pick a Silva, bet is Melsick, and I'll take a stab at that over 1.5. Next fight of the night, we have another John. We have Gene Matsumoto at minus 175, going up against Rob Font at plus 150, over 2.5 minus 400, under 2.5 plus 300. Let's start with Matsumoto. Matsumoto's taking this fight on short notice. He's 25 years old. He's super young. He's 16-0. He has really good striking. He has good jiu-jitsu. He is okay wrestling, but 57% takedown defense. He could work on his defense. He does not train at shoot to box, but he fights exactly like them with the good striking and good BJJ and can offensively wrestle. Likes to pressure forward. He's literally the exact same thing. He has okay cardio. It's not good. It's not bad. But he has a ton of volume. He can go a hard 15 minutes. Level of competition. Casey Kenny, not Casey Kenny. Wow. Casey Tanner is pretty decent. I guess he had some injury going into that fight, but Casey Tanner is a good fighter. He went out there and dominated. Dan Argueta's a pretty decent fighter. He went out there and choked him out. He's a BJJ black belt. Brad Katona is one of the hidden gems of the UFC. He's a little, people call him boring, but he is very, very smart out there. Always has great game plans, and Matsumoto was able to handle it. That's a very, very good win for a 25-year-old young man. Like that's a great win for a 25-year-old. Kid's the goods. I keep trying to fade him. I faded him with Brad Katona. I faded him with Dan Argueta. And he keeps proving me wrong. His takedown defense he does need to work on, but lucky for him, he's fighting Rob Font. Rob Font is not a good wrestler. Rob Font is 37 years old. Rob Font has really good striking. He has okay jiu-jitsu, but I'd say the jiu-jitsu is a wash. He's fought a much better level of competition. Rob Font was really close to fighting for a title at one point. He's the American in this matchup, so he might have the crowd behind him a little bit. He throws a ton of volume. He himself struggles with wrestling, 44% takedown defense. His his Tapology page isn't going to show that he's chinny, but he is. He's been rocked in every single one of his fights for the last like 7 fights. Kyler Phillips rocked, or no, Kyler didn't. Davidson Figueroa rocked him. Corey Sanhagen rocked him. Adrian Yanez, no. Marlon Vera rocked him. Jose Aldo rocked him. Cody Garbrandt rocked him. Marlon Moraes, no. But he just keeps getting rocked over and over and over again. He outstruck Marlon Vera by like 100 strikes and lost a unanimous decision because he got rocked so many times. Jose Aldo, he outstruck by like 60 significant strikes, been lost because he got rocked so many times. His chin is going. He has not gone fully out, but he is doing the stinky leg all over the place repeatedly. He has good cardio. I'll give him that. It's only 3 rounds, and he looked great in his last fight. He gave Kyler Phillips a vet lesson, and I could see him doing the same to a 25-year-old kid on short notice. I do think Rob Font is a little live, but then I go back and I do the tape, and I think, where? How does he? How? Matsumoto throws just as much volume. He throws with a lot more power. Matsumoto is a lot faster, and if he wants, he can sprinkle in the takedown over 44% takedown defense. Rob Font. Matsumoto is just faster. He's quicker. He hits harder, and he has the wrestling to back it up. There's just more avenues. I don't want to bet Matsumoto. I like Rob Font. I want to bet Rob Font. I went in with the intention of betting Rob Font, but I watched the tape and I can't do it. The pick is Matsumoto. The bet's going to be Matsumoto. Next fight of the night is the co-main event of the evening. We have my boy Anthony Fluffy Hernandez at minus 260 going up against Brendan All In Allen at plus 220. Over under set at 2.5 for once. Over 2.5 minus 145. Under 2.5 at plus 115. Brendan Allen went on a nice little run here. He's 29 years old. He has really good jiu-jitsu. That's what he's known for. His wrestling has improved a ton. He has pretty decent wrestling. He took down Chris Curtis 6 times. He took down Nazardine Imavov twice. Like, those guys are hard to take down, so good on him. His striking has improved a ton. He's a pretty decent striker now. Level of competition's pretty decent. Just mentioning some of the names I did. The problem with his wrestling is that offensively, it's gotten much better. Defensively, still rocking a 58% takedown defense. If you want him down, you can get him down. He's good offensively. Defensively, he's very hittable on the feet when it comes to his striking. His volume's all right. His cardio is a question mark. I've seen it look good where he's mainly striking. When he has to wrestle, and he has to wrestle a lot, he does gas out. Especially his just even his last fight against Imavov, they were both gassed, and that was a 3 rounder because he had to wrestle the entire time. He did not want to stand with Imavov at all. His corner kept yelling for him to wrestle the entire time, and that gassed him out. It gassed them both out, but it gassed him out. You can't gas out Fluffy Hernandez. He is a Marab gas tank. His best weapon is his cardio. He's 31 years old. He himself has good jiu-jitsu. He himself is okay wrestling. He himself is okay striking. Allen's a little chinny. He's been knocked out multiple times. Hernandez is a little chinny. Has been knocked out multiple times, but it's all to the body. A lot of body work. He's fluffy, man. That's his nickname. He doesn't have a lot of muscle to back him up there, and his little people target his fat. It's not fair. Leave my guy alone. He has world class cardio. He has good volume. He's a little bit of a slow starter. It wouldn't surprise me if he lost round one, but as the fight goes, he continues to dominate. When you get him down, he has a good get up game, good reversals. He loves to pressure forward. He has a 65% takedown defense. I hope he worked on that. Allen can probably get him down to the ground, but Fluffy will get up. Or Fluffy will reverse. How do I know that's going to happen? Because these two already fought 5 years ago. This is a rematch. This was an LFA middleweight title fight back in like 2018 or something like that, 2016, 2018. And Fluffy won. And Fluffy dominated because of cardio. Now, that was a 5 rounder, so I am a little nervous for the 3 rounder. Allen looked fine initially. He just kind of slowed down, and like the first round was pretty close. Second, third, and fourth were all Fluffy, and then the fifth round was pretty close. Hernandez won a unanimous decision. Made it. It was a runaway, but that was with 5 rounds. With 3 rounds, is Allen just going to come out and wrestle the whole time? Is he going to try to strike with Fluffy? I don't know what he's going to do in a 3 rounder. It does make me a little nervous, but watching Allen continually wrestle and get tired made me feel better. Because if Allen's not shooting takedowns, god damn it, Fluffy will. He doesn't stop. He's not the greatest wrestler, but neither is Marab. It's the exact same thing. If you shoot 20 takedowns, the other guy is going to gas out. And if you don't get the first 10, you might get like 6 or 7 of the next 10. And that's how Fluffy fights. That's how Fluffy wins his fight. The pick is going to be Fluffy Hernandez. The bet is Fluffy Hernandez. And that takes us to the main event already. If you haven't, make sure you smash the like, give a follow over on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, wherever there's social media. There's a Stats and Stacks podcast. We have Henry Cejudo plus 220 going up against Song Yadong at minus 260. Over under set at 4.5. Over 4.5 is minus 165. Under 4.5 at plus 135. Let's start with Song Yadong. Song, whatever. He's good. I like this kid a lot. He's 27 years old. He's been in the UFC since he was like 20. So it's crazy. Like him and Edmund Shabazian last week to think that they're still only 27 is insane. He has good striking, a ton of power, good wrestling, 72% takedown defense, offense and defensive wrestling, solid. Jiu-jitsu, solid. Cardio is good. It's pretty solid. I've seen it look better in some circumstances, but the Corey Sandhagen fight was his last 5 rounder, and he looked perfectly fine there. He does love to pressure forward. He's fought a good level of competition thus far. His volume's pretty decent. There's nothing bad about this kid. He is good everywhere. I can't even call him a generalist because he's good in most places, and in jiu-jitsu, I'll say he's okay. On the other side, it's basically the same thing, only advanced. Cejudo striking, good. Wrestling, great. He is a literal gold medalist. Jiu-jitsu's okay. I'll say it's a wash there. Great level of competition, okay volume. He'll probably have the crowd behind him, seeing that he's the American in this matchup. Again, not a lot of Washington fighters, so they might just cheer for the American itself. The problem I have with Cejudo is that he's 38 years old and he's in the wrong weight class. He's a flyweight. He was nasty as a flyweight. Now he's 38 fighting a bantamweight. Do I think he can find a way? Yeah, I do. I truly do. He is a mastermind. That is the difference here. It's a 27-year-old kid fighting one of the best fight IQs in the game, but will his body hold up? He's 38 years old at bantamweight. I'm scared. I don't know. I want to bet Song. I wouldn't want to pick Song. I think he is just the more physical person at this stage in the game. If this was Henry 5 years ago, I'm all over Henry. Because we basically saw this fight. Him and Marlon Moraes is basically the same thing. Only Marlon Moraes' cardio fell off a cliff. Songs won't do that. It truly won't. But if there's anyone that can find a way, it's Cejudo, man. He just went to a split decision with Aljo. Like, that was for a title after not fighting in like 4 years. Like, that's tough. And I thought he won the fight. He then fought Marab, and we didn't know Marab was Marab at that point. So his last two losses were to the champion and the current champion. Like, cut the guy some slack. His other career loss was to Demetrius Johnson, who again was a champion and is considered one of the greatest to ever do it. It's really between him, GSP, and John Jones as the top three to ever do it. And then his only other loss, he has four losses, was to Joseph Benavidez, who challenged for the title 4 times. Like, Joseph Benavidez was a motherfucker. It's just he fought in the same weight class as Mighty Mouse, and he couldn't beat Demetrius Johnson, as no one could. You know, the only guy that did beat Demetrius Johnson at flyweight? Henry Cejudo. Henry's good, man, at flyweight. Henry's good 5 or 10 years ago. But his mind, I don't know. It's really Song's athleticism against Henry's mind. And I don't know which way to go. And because I'm so torn and because I'm so 50-50, I'll just go ahead and go dog hunting again. It is not violence or dog. We're just going to go straight dog. The pick is going to be Song Yudong, but the bet's going to ultimately be Henry Cejudo. And just kind of, it's a little bit of a homer pick, man. But the judges can also get swayed. He's going to be the American. He's probably going to come out with an American flag and eat into that. He knows how to play the game. And I'm going to trust Henry's mind. So the pick is Song athletically, but in regards to a bet, it's Triple C. And that is UFC Seattle. Not a lot of definitive answers here because it's a lot of bad on bad or a lot of bad on unknown. A lot of violence this fight card. Only 11 fights. I think like 3 of them go to decision. I think it's going to be a violent card. I think it's going to be a fun card. Starts at 4. Keep that in mind. It's in the middle of the day. Ultimately, if you want to go dog hunting with me, let's do it. Otherwise, if you want to eat the chalk and just take violence, you can do that too. Either way, it's going to be a fun night, and hopefully, it's going to be a profitable night. Let's get after it.